Hello, everyone. Again. So, I took a week off last week because I kind of needed a reset for myself, for a lot of reasons. I decided to quit school. I don't remember if I said that before, but I did, so that I could focus on, because I have too many bills to worry about right now, so I can't do that. I can't afford things that I need for school as well. So, but I needed a reset from a lot of things. And now I'm making a video because I felt like it. I actually also cleaned my room. There was a lot everywhere, so I got to cleaning and it looks a lot better. So that's nice. Anyway, this week's card, this is the last of the cards that I drew and felt the need to share with everyone. So if anything, I'll do it again or something. Just draw more cards, possibly from a different deck. We'll see. Anyway, this one is obsessiveness. Write down what you are obsessing over. Realize that it is emotionally draining you. I'll show you that right there. Woohoo! It's wonderful. I definitely need to write things down in my journal again. I have not journaled in a while. But like I said, last week was a week of just resetting. And this week is going to be a new week where I actually do things to better my situation in my life. As much as I can, obviously. But anyway, let's get back into the book, shall we? Stay where I want you to be. Microphone. I guess you can do that. Sure, why not? It'll probably fall again. That's okay. Chapter 8. Ooh, I should probably put my glasses on. Here they are. Okay. These glasses don't help me see per se, but they help my eyes to work together. Anyway. Ooh, we're back to Yates. Yates takes the long way to his meeting with the board, stopping first at floor B14 to make a cup of coffee. Though the Axon Corporation exists in a building with the square footage of Central Park, it is staffed by a crew of less than 100, most of whom are professional mercenaries used to keep the local population in line. The 12 leaders of the company, who refer to themselves simply as the board, knew that each extra employee was another security risk, so they made automating the building a top priority. Yates had designed a number of systems along with this line over the years, and the end result was a marvel of modern engineering and thought that practically ran itself. After making his coffee, Yates moves up a couple of floors to check on his latest side project, an ambitious idea that used microscopic robots to repair damaged human tissue. The experiment had been plagued by a steady stream of nagging issues, namely that his machines could not yet distinguish damaged tissue from healthy, and his trials usually ended with the test subjects bleeding to death from their pores. This failure bothered Yates, but only in a vague clinical kind of way. He knew he could eventually succeed, as he had in everything that had come before. So he viewed the deaths as mere bumps along the road of progress. Thankfully, there was no shortage of subjects on which to work on. If there was one thing the world did not lack, it was homeless vagrants who would not be missed. That makes me sad. Anyway, after taking a few notes on his latest trial and ignoring the man's terribly distracting screaming, Yates finally makes his way to the conference room where the board is waiting. They are seated, as always, behind a massive table carved from the endangered Brazilian redwood, a material that seems not to reflect light so much as transform it into a luminous presence. The 12 men behind the table are by any measure the 12 men behind the table are by any measure the most powerful in the world, used to having whatever they want at a moment's notice. And judging by the scared and angry looks that cross their faces as Yates enters the room, what they want is answers. Yates sets his notebook down on the small podium and addresses his classes. "Gentlemen, I hear you want to speak with me." "You have heard about Mr. O'Leary," barks the man on the left, a large Chinese national named Su. "You know that he has fled the country?" "I was just informed." "And were you informed that he stole something from us?" "I was told this also, yes." A man named James Caulfield leans forward and points his index finger at Yates. When he speaks, it is with a soft southern drawl. "Thank you, book, for telling me." "We've heard some disturbing things about this theft, Yates. People tell us he took something quite extraordinary." That's not a good accent, and that's okay. I'm not from there. "It was a little experiment of mine," says Yates in a soft, controlled voice. "Something I was tinkering with in my off hours. It is of no consequence." "Oh, but we heard that it's of great fucking consequence, Yates. We heard the bastard fled the country with a working version of the machine." Caulfield, an arms dealer who made his fortune selling yellow cake uranium to various foreign governments, raises his eyebrows slightly, as if waiting for the old man in front of him to crumble into dust. "The experiment that Mr. O'Leary stole is useless," replies Yates. "It does nothing more than weigh him down." "So, you aren't building a portable machine, is that what you're saying?" "Eventually, yes. I was hoping to create a portable machine, but my current efforts have been fruitless. Had I more time, I might have been successful, but, well, we've all been a little busy lately." This elicits a round of chuckling from 10 of the men behind the table, although Sue and Caulfield continue to frown. They suspect more than the others. Charles thinks to himself, well, let them. In a few hours, none of their suspicions will mean a thing. You should not have let him near your experiments, says Sue, pressing the attack. In fact, I thought the plan was to eliminate Mr. O'Leary sometime last week. That was your plan, gentlemen, not mine. I think you underestimate your level of involvement here, Charles, says a fat, bald man named Daniel Peterson. He made his fortune in the stock market back in the early 90s, then had the good sense to get out before everything went to hell. He is the wealthiest man on the entire Axon board, although in Yates' experience, such wealth did little more than make men soft. That is not wrong. You're in this just as much as we are. We can't duck responsibility when decisions get messy. And you've never struck me as particularly squeamish, adds Caulfield. You'd smother a baby with a pillow if it served one of your damn experiments. Do you remember when I joined your company? Asks Yates in reply. The men in front of him nod slowly, unsure of where this was going. I came to you 15 years ago with the most fantastic idea ever created. A machine that could control time itself. We know this, exclaimed Sue. I hardly think I found a location where we could harness solar and geothermal power at an exaggerated rate, continues Yates. I designed solar panels, gave you batteries that you could store untold amounts of electricity, and created a means to transfer that energy to the machine. I powered it up. I turned it on, and in the years since, I have solved every technical challenge that you have placed before me. I gave you the world, gentlemen, and all I can ask in return is the funding to complete the project. I did not hunger for power or wealth or fame. I simply wanted to see if the machine was possible. Yates pauses for a moment, then glances from one man to the next. Each one meets his gaze with a look of bemused interest, an emotion that suits Yates. Very well. Underestimate me yet again. That will work just fine. Mr. Su, you are one of the highest-ranking officials in the Chinese National Army. Mr. Kisipit, you made billions of dollars selling military weapons to various groups across the African continent. Mr. Ritchie, your son currently heads the Central Intelligence Agency. What's the point, Chuck? Says David Kisipit as he leans back in his chair. He is a thin, wiry man with a vicious temper who once murdered a dry cleaner when he didn't like the starch in his shirts. Smoke up my ass makes me uncomfortable. Gentlemen, I came to you as a physicist. I came to you as a physicist and an engineer, and in those capacities, I have performed admirably. The killing of Mr. O'Leary, if that was your desire, should have been handled by one of your mercenaries, while my damn experiments, as you so fondly refer to them, sometimes end in failure. I am no murderer. Well, we would have killed the son of a bitch if he hadn't fled the damn country, says Cassipit with a snarl. What you think about that? Catch me outside, how about that? Yates goes silent as a vision suddenly enters his mind. Cassipit, trapped inside a large, clear jar banging on the glass. Green gas flows into the jar from an unseen tube at the top. As the man's face begins to bulge and stretch, such violent thoughts had been coming to... As the man's face begins to bulge and stretch, such violent thoughts had been coming to him more frequently of late. This could be related to the grand experiment. Perhaps I have underestimated the effect it would have on my own mind. The board mistakes his pause for nervousness and break out into self-knowing grins. They clearly enjoyed seeing him out of his element. Yates decides to wait a few more seconds before answering, even going as far as to shuffle his notebook around the podium in a feigned display of nerves. I think, begins Yates, I think that Mr. O'Leary's theft and the flight is unfortunate, but I also know it does not matter. Even if he has lost faith in our goals, there is nothing that can be done. What police agency would believe him? What government would think that a private corporation was about to alter reality by way of a fantastic new machine? Phew! Whew! And even if someone did believe him, they could not possibly act in time. We have only to wait until this evening, and the change will be unstoppable. About that, says Daniel, staring into his laptop. We see here that you want to engage the machine at 10:17 p.m. Correct. By starting at 10:17, the batteries will gain an additional... We will engage the machine at 10 precisely, says Sue. May I ask why? We're just not comfortable with the original schedule, stammers Daniel. Hell, Chuck, shouts Cassipit. We're already all nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Why wait around for an extra 17 minutes just to get some 1 billion of 1%'s worth of power or whatever it is you're doing? Let's just turn the fucker on and see and be done with it. Bet. Perhaps 10:15 would be acceptable. I realize it is only 2 minutes, but even the extra time would be... The machine will be turned on at 10 o'clock, says Sue. Is this going to be a problem? Yates takes a moment to stare at the men in front of him. As they lean forward in their chairs, he can feel them sizing him up, watching him for any sign of weakness or hesitation. Doubts, any doubts, would be bad right now. If they delayed the transfer, someone might discover his true plan, and that would be a very unfortunate thing. "No, gentlemen," answers Yates. 10 o'clock is perfectly acceptable. Gather together at this time. Open a bottle of champagne and celebrate your ascendancy into immortality. The board leans back as the tension in the room melts away. They want to believe him, these men. They want to think that they will be kings in a brave new world. Daniel motions for Yates to approach the table, then leans his sizable gut over it and proffers his hand. Charles plasters a fake smile on his face and pumps the massive paw a few times, then works his way down the line like a minister at the end of a sermon, shaking hands, exchanging words, telling the men that all will be well. It's long and tiring work, mostly because he has to resist the urge to break into maniacal laughter. Pride has made these men soft, and greed has made them sloppy. 4 years ago, they never would have put so much responsibility in the hands of a scientist they did not trust. But the reality of the machine changed everything, and with ultimate power at his fingertips, they decided it was worth a risk. The meeting continues with mindless speculation about the grandeur of this new world. But Yates does not linger. My leg hurts. Okay. There you go. Excusing himself under the pretense of preparation, he returns to the elevator, inserts a key card, and rides it as far down as it will go, farther down even than the machine itself. When the lift finally grinds to a halt, it spits Yates out into a hidden floor that he had constructed in secret. He takes a sip of lukewarm coffee as he strolls down a long, dark hallway. At the far end, he stops at an imposing metal door and begins to disengage a complicated system of locks. A soft gurgling sound emits from somewhere behind the door, as well as an unpleasant stench. This continues to amaze Yates. Even with the best air filtration system he can build, the smell still manages to escape. When the door finally swings open, he steps into a large white room. To his left is a supercomputer of his own design, one far more advanced than anything else currently in operation. Thick bundles of wires spill out from this machine and over to a massive storage tank. The gurgling sound comes from a system of hoses at the back of the tank. Pure, clean water flows in, but the stuff that emerges is blackened and foul. Yates has spared no expense in the construction of the tank. It is, without a doubt, the most secure prison that the world has ever seen. The walls are nearly 3 feet thick and composed of titanium interlaced with lonsdaleite, a material even harder than diamond. Surrounding the tank is an electrified grid that could power a small city, as well as vents that can fill the room with deadly cyanide gas. And just in case something does happen to climb out of the tank with revenge on its mind, the entire floor is wired with nearly 1,000 pounds of explosives. He sits down at the desk and flips on a video monitor. This is connected to a small camera inside the tank, providing Yates a view of the thing that lurks inside. He longs to get closer to the creature, to examine it with his own hands. But such a wish is folly. Inside the tank is the most amazing and most dangerous thing that has ever existed. It is a creature beyond even death. It is the anti-life. The image on the screen is blackness, and for a moment it appears that the camera has stopped working. Then something shifts slightly, creating a dark blur against the brackish water of the tank. For a long time there is only this blurry darkness, but then it shifts again to reveal a bit of pale translucent skin. One huge black eye rolls around to the camera and stares into it, watching. It understands what is happening. It knows that Yates is there, but then again, it has always known this. The pipes gurgle again as a thick black fluid begins to run through them. This ooze moves through a series of smaller and smaller pipes before finally dripping out into a small glass beaker on Yates's desk. He watches it crawl down the side of the glass with a handkerchief over his mouth. The stench of the stuff is beyond overpowering. After a few minutes, the flow slows to a trickle before stopping altogether. A couple ounces of sludge lie in the bottom of the beaker, and as Yates picks it up and looks inside, he wonders if he might be making the most terrible mistake of his or any life. Nothing is accomplished without risk, he murmurs to himself as he swirls the liquid. There can be no progress without fear. This is the only way. Others will come, other men, other machines. This is the only way. He raises the beaker to his lips and drinks. That is disgusting. He doesn't know what it is. Foul blackness trickles down the sides of his mouth, but he continues to force it down. When he is finished, he falls to the ground and waits for the convulsions to pass. They are worse than ever this time, a thought that brings him a small glimmer of joy. His calculations were correct. When the change happens, he will be ready. Hours tick by. The thing in the tank stirs occasionally, occasionally slamming itself against the sides. Finally, Charles Yates manages to pull himself off the ground and back to his chair. His hands are trembling and his legs are weak, but he is alive, and more than that, he is prepared. Men can keep their money and their power, whispers Yates to himself as a small trickle of black seeps from the corner of his eye. But I lay claim to the beautiful land. That is the end of chapter 8. It's intriguing, isn't it? It's a lot of fun. It's such a good book. It's so good. It is so good. I hope that anyone and everyone that listens to this might buy it. And I believe you can only buy it through means of things such as, what was it? You can't buy the physical book. That's what I'm trying to say. You can only buy it through like Kindle and stuff like that from what I heard. I found that out because I used to go to this bookstore all the time, and I think I talked about that a little bit, but I got it there, and so I asked if they would be able to get it back, and so they said no. That book is not in publication so much anymore. You can get it on Kindle or something like that, or I think there might be an audiobook. I don't know, because I've never listened to the audiobook. That would be interesting though. But I really hope that everyone enjoys this to where they want to get this book because it's so good. It is so good. And that's what it looks like in case you forgot. I don't know. It's really good. But, yeah. I feel like I've been going through a lot lately. And I haven't been doing too much with learning or even reading in general. I haven't been reading books as much as I usually do. And then the other day I wrote a poem type thing. And I feel like it's beautiful, and it kind of inspired me to want to do this and to clean my room, honestly. And like I did the dishes the other day, and I feel like it encouraged me to do more because I got a little creative. And when I get a little creative after it's been a while, suddenly my brain and everything feels like, hey, you're gonna do this, and then we're gonna have fun doing other things as well. So, yeah, we'll figure out, we'll see what I'm doing. I remember it might have actually been about a month ago, now that I think about it. But I started on a new part of my story. I have a friend that's editing my stuff, and they have been in a little bit of a pickle recently, and they just reached out to me telling me that once they have more things in order, they'll go back to editing. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So I am definitely a lot more hopeful for this. So that's nice. I'm excited for that. But anyway. Remember to meditate. It's a very important thing to do, is remembering to meditate, remembering to go back to yourself and ground yourself. Remember to shield yourself. Remember to actively try to block out negative energies as much as you can. I haven't been doing that recently, and I just haven't been thinking about it. I've been keeping myself too busy and then stressing myself out too much. And now it helps relieve the stress, at least for me. Maybe not everyone, but for me it does. Maybe writing down your issues, your problems, your fears, your worries, what's making you happy in your life, what's sad, what's anything, honestly. Sometimes writing them down, sometimes talking it out with someone. Just remember to find what best helps you to take care of yourself. And don't just bottle it up, because that never works. Of course, there are perfectly good times to bottle things up, to mask, or whatever you need to do. Like, for example, if you don't feel safe with your family, but there's not much you can do about it, whether it's because you're underage or you just don't have anyone in your life to help you get to a better place, there's only so much you can do in that moment. And I'm really sorry if you're going through that, because I understand at least a little bit what that feels like. But do what you can with this time that we have right now. I hope everyone has a good day. I love you all. And I'll see you on the other side.